Welcome to the Seamus Show. Today, we are talking about sleep. This sounds incredibly boring, but this is a really deep rabbit hole that you can go down. I mean, how many of us sit there every single night getting frustrated that we can't fall asleep, constantly looking at the clock, thinking, oh, if I fall asleep now, I've got 6 hours until I have to wake up. Oh, if I fall asleep now, I've got 5.5 hours until I got to wake up. Sleep, we do it every single day, yet so many of us don't know how to do it, which is a weird thing because we've been doing it every day since we were born, but we don't know how to do it. This guy I've got on the Seamus Show, his name is Dayne Barkley. He has his own glasses line that cancels out blue light to help you sleep. This guy, you could literally grate cheese on his abs, and he knows how to sleep really well. He's studied it, researched it, and applied every single technique under the sun. He joins us now. Dayne Barkley, welcome to the Seamus Show.
Oh, thanks for having me, Seamus. But six-pack abs, it's from a good sleep, that's why. That's a great sleep. Get six-pack abs. Very simple. There you go.
Now, talk to me about sleep. This is a very big rabbit hole. How long have you been personally researching and studying sleep? And why the hell are you studying that? That's so boring.
A lot of people really, it's a real big topic now. It gets bigger and bigger. People, sleep trackers, like Aura Ring is so popular now. I'd say probably at least 10 years. I'd say, so I'm 35, so 25. That's when I probably became quite interested in the space of sleep, because I guess it's anyone in that space of discovering or going down the health rabbit hole. It's one of those fundamental aspects of health that it's very simple to focus on, whereas diet, everyone has an opinion, and there's so many different types of diets, and then exercise, different routines. There's so many varied, I guess, interests in that space, whereas when it comes to sleep, it's pretty simple. It's just sleep, and then how do you get the best quality sleep, which then impacts your waking hours. So I never had terrible sleep. I just then, when I started to research and learn about it, realized, oh, it makes sense. We do it every day anyway, or every night, then why not optimize and capitalize that period, so then in the waking hours I'm feeling the best physically, mentally, emotionally, everything. And so I apply the stuff I'm learning slowly. In the last 10 years I've tried a lot of stuff. I got pretty extreme at one stage where I just, with my Aura tracking ring, I had about 6 years straight, I'm talking not missing a night, maybe missing 1 or 2 nights in 6 years of tracking my sleep. I'd even take it camping, in the middle of nowhere, hiking and camping in New Zealand to track my sleep, because I wanted to show how effective it is sleeping, camping, for instance, grounded out in nature. And yeah, it got pretty extreme, but I got some good data, and that data sort of helps me now to, I guess, apply the most important parts of sleep. And now it's very simple, sustainable, and just very effortless for me.
And in those years of data collection, what's been one of the most pinnacle behaviors that you've realized this actually helps your sleep more than some of the other maybe wives' tales that we've been told growing up?
Yeah, I'd say for my experience was temperature is quite crucial. The temperature of the room you're sleeping in. And so where sometimes it's difficult to control that. So if you're living in a subtropical or hot climate, just trying to keep it as cool as possible. So fans or air cons or even ice packs. I bought ice packs and put them around my head and my body just to cool my body down. But essentially your body temperature needs to drop before you fall asleep. And so that's why it's pretty crucial not to have a freezing cold room, but to have a cool room. But yeah, I say the temperature aspect was really important for me. If I go anywhere that's hot, I have the worst sleep. And so living in a cool environment or having access to aircon is helpful to sort of allow me to consistently get good sleep. Lighting probably still has to be the number one. From when I first started wearing those really weird wraparound orange goggles that I first started out wearing, when I first discovered it, probably almost 10 years ago, I was like, this is cool. And so I put them on, and that's when I experienced what it felt like then to actually have melatonin just released into the body, and what it feels like to then go to sleep and wake up feeling great. and do that consistently. And it was such a simple thing. It wasn't like buying supplements constantly and spending money. It was just buying a single pair of glasses. I got the crappy, cheap plastic ones just because I didn't have much money at the time, and it worked. But then I went on to say, sort of create my own, so I feel comfortable wearing them outside the house as well. But they work, they really work, and it's great hearing the feedback from people that really helps them with their sleep. Eye health is really important, but yeah, I'd say lighting, temperature, and then probably the third one, which is it's very basic, not really like extreme. It's just eating, nothing too, not eating too much too late. So eating light and as early as possible, because essentially, if you're eating a big heavy meal close to bed, your body will prioritize digestion over deep sleep or REM sleep. So therefore, and you can't choose that. So therefore, it's good not to go to bed starving, but it's also good not to go to bed eating too close to bed, 2 to 3 hours before bed.
So why then do we fall asleep after we eat?
Yeah, like a big carby meal. Yeah, if you have like a
Yeah.
big pasta and you fall asleep, probably more of like a food coma than it is actually deep quality sleep. And it might be depending on what that food is. If you're having like a big bowl of pasta in winter, it's something quite sort of enjoyable about that, but it's probably more so the sort of comfort from that and maybe the relaxation of digestion. But we won't be having quality sleep. So you may feel tired after it. It could be an insulin spike. It could be multiple things, or maybe you feel good, but you're not going to have the quality sleep. So therefore, if you had a tracker, like a ring or something to track your sleep, you'd be able to see the data very clearly. So if you had a big meal, then go to sleep, your deep sleep will plummet because it's prioritizing digestion first. Therefore, that's part of the data that I collected as well. I saw that objectively, and then I also felt that too, because I find I'd wake up, I'd also get quite hot because my body's trying to digest the food, and so therefore my metabolism's activated, and so therefore I find it difficult to then get cool to fall asleep properly as well. And so yeah, I'd say that's a pretty big one. These ones are very simple. It's like literally the lighting environment and you're say controlling what you eat and how much you eat close to bed. It's just more so of habit. It's just getting into the routine habit of applying these principles and practices really. And I'm in the habit and routine now where it's effortless. It just takes time to implement them consistently.
When you say to find the right temperature, what is the perfect temperature for the perfect night's sleep?
From memory, I think it's around the 17 degrees Celsius. That's what I,
17 degrees? That's a bit
yeah,
colder than I thought.
yeah, 17, 18 degrees. That's what when I learned back in the day. I think that was probably pretty much the ideal sort of spot. But then again, it sort of varies. I guess probably the best thing to do is having a window open if you can. So I sleep with my window open most nights of the year. If it's raining, then obviously I can't, but I have it open and I have a fly screen. But otherwise, that's pretty important so that your body can actually sort of acclimatize to the actual environment as well. So therefore, if you have a closed up room and it's either pumping heater or aircon, you're climate controlling too much and your body then struggles to adapt as well. So yeah, I'd say 17 or 18 is probably what I've heard and seen over the years that's been, I guess, researched in terms of the most optimal sleep temperature.
Now, you said that our body temperature drops when we sleep. Well, then why do we wake up sweating?
Yeah, I know, that's a good question. No, it has to drop at least 1 to 2 degrees for you to fall asleep. So that's why a great, we'll call it a great hack or a great sort of practice would be having a warm shower or bath before bed. If you have a warm shower, warm bath relatively close to bed, what happens then is that essentially you're warm, but you have to get out of the shower. It sort of activates your body temperature to drop, and it helps that go into actually a better sleep. Whereas if you were to have a cold shower or an ice bath just before bed, then your body will start to sort of slowly heat up. Then we're trying to because your body's so cold, it starts to go the other direction. So you kind of need to go down then. So a good way to sort of I guess hack that would be able to actually have like a warm bath or shower, which would really help. But yeah, if you wake up sweating, multiple reasons as well. It could be physiological reasons. It may be there's something you may have eaten too close to bed. I find that when I eat either too close to bed or maybe have too much food in my stomach, that's one of the a typical sign of having say, too much food in your stomach, and your body's ramping up metabolism and trying to digest, and so it wakes you up. And so therefore, that's like a really sort of very relatively simple thing to sort of stop doing, is not to eat so heavy or so much before bed. And if you need some food, like a sort of raw honey, coconut oil, some sort of fats or sugars at least before bed. But yeah, the sweating thing could also be temperature. It could be temperature in the actual. It could be like it's a warm night here. It could be the temperature. You could be eating too close to bed. There's hormonal impacts as well. So you could have like a different sort of imbalances of hormones. So as I said, there's so many bloody factors into sleep. It's hard because you can't control them all, but there are ones that I like to focus on that are very easy to control, like lighting and like eating close to bed, or if you have, say, having your window open at night, have a breeze come through. It's pretty simple to sort of to follow.
How long do I have to stay up and not go to sleep until I die? Do you know that answer? Is there an answer to that?
That's a good question. I did hear something recently. I don't know if it was an old study or it was relatively new, but there was a guy, I think there was, actually, no, I read it might have been in the 70s or 80s. I think I did it in some university in the US. And I think it might have been like, 4 or 5 days maybe, with no sleep. And then he started to hallucinate and then actually started to deteriorate the brain. So therefore they had to actually sort of induce him into a sleep. I think it was from a study perspective, but it apparently had lasting impact on his brain in a bad way. So,
Really?
So I think of what it was. He did it for experimentation reasons for the university. It's one of the big universities in the or colleges in the US. But it was detrimental. We're not meant to be that long without sleep. And then for most people, I guess most people have maybe small amounts, but like over long periods of time. So that was an excessive situation of like 4 to 5, might have been even a week without any sleep. You start to hallucinate and see things, and it actually start to sort of really impact the brain. And so therefore, on a smaller scale, people losing sleep here and there, it's not that bad, but over time it accumulates and it's bad.
So how long is the perfect time to sleep? Like, I mean, obviously they say you're 8 hours. You got to get the 8 hours. But you hear about people, especially in that high performance world, where they're like, dude, I sleep for 3 hours a night. For every hour that you're sleeping, you're not working and your competition is getting... It's like, how sustainable is 3 hours a night? I remember when I was working in breakfast radio, I was sleeping 4 hours a night and it was not sustainable. My health was seriously deteriorating and I was an anxious wreck and my addictions were through the roof and I was just living on constant adrenaline. How sustainable is that 3 hour concept of high performance?
It's not. I mean, it's very I guess buzzword and very sort of enticing to be like just be more productive. But I mean, you're not going to be productive if you have lack of sleep. You're going to be finding you can be firing all the cylinders, but you're going to be deteriorating your brain and your body. You're not really going to be getting like the most productive value out of it. The counterintuitive sense of it is that you should be getting the most optimal amount of sleep possible. Like getting that should be the aim, no matter how much that is. And then in those waking hours, you'll be optimal then. So therefore, you rather than just like having less sleep, just focusing heavily on the sleep, dialing that in as best as you can. So many factors involved. And then in your waking hours, you're functioning optimally, which I like to consider myself in the sort of that realm of being, because I'm so dialed in and disciplined in my sleep, and because I know so much about it, and I've applied so much to that. In my waking hours, I don't feel fatigued or tired, and I rarely, if any, get sick. And so many of these factors, I'm not constantly feeling like I'm always like feeling sharp. And so it's very rare that I feel down. And now I focus more on the sleep than I do in, say, getting less to be more productive. So it's not sustainable. I think a very, 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 very small percentage of people out there can get by on 4 to 5 hours of sleep, like genetically speaking. But the majority of people, the large majority, 7 to 8 hours is like a good sort of guideline, I guess, to sort of focus on. But then again, there's other factors too, whether you work out and train, whether you're male and how old you are, your environment, what you're going through. If you're going through something emotionally draining, then you need a lot more sleep to recover. And so, yeah, I go through different seasons in life, and so therefore that determines, I guess, too, how much sleep and more so the quality of sleep you should be getting. Should be more of a focus.
I have really struggled with my sleep my whole life up until probably a year ago. And I've experimented with every sleeping pill. I've experimented with every waking up technique, all of the things I've tried. But in your opinion and all the research that you've done and in your experience, what is the art to getting the best night's sleep? Like, is it falling asleep or is it waking up? Is it waking up at the same time every day or is it trying to fall asleep? What would you say is like the cornerstone of a good night's sleep?
Yeah, it's well, it depends which way you look at it. It's bookending each. So your morning routine, your evening routine, essentially are your habits stacked into a routine. That is what determines, I guess, and your environment. I sort of like to see it, the way I sort of distill it down into is that there's sort of 4 areas to focus on. There's the environment, there's the psychological aspect, your mind, there's the physiological aspect, your body, and then there's other aspects out of our control, where there's universal or cosmological or spiritual, which are very difficult to control. But the environment is a very easy one to control and very simple, and lighting is one of the most important aspects of that when it comes to sort of sleep. So therefore, my focus, hence why I created a pair of blue blockers as well, is that lighting is one of the most important foundational pieces to get quality sleep. Without a dialed-in, consistent, sort of conscious awareness of your lighting environment and creating a routine around that. So that means it starts in the morning. If you can get morning sunlight into the eyes, great. If you can't, or if it's in winter and it's really dark, there are light boxes, things that can essentially sort of trigger the stop in your melatonin to be releasing and increase cortisol, so you're awake. It's a way of sort of almost telling your body you're anchoring the start of the day. This is where I wake up. And then at nighttime, that's when you minimize, if not eliminate, artificial lighting, especially the bright lighting. And so that is, and the temperature of the lighting. So for instance, most of the downlights that people are familiar with, screens, all these have quite a white light, but it's actually a blue light. And that's what suppresses the melatonin to be released. So the candlelight, the firelight, that's what we've evolved under for millions of years. And that is not a coincidence. That's why we feel best around those lighting too. And so we always, if you're around a fire, people get sleepy. If you have a candlelight in your house, that's only a good experimentation, which I've always recommend for people just to experience, I guess, the reality. What I'm saying is that to essentially just have a screen-free night. So the best way to sort of feel what it really feels like to have melatonin just rush through your system is to, once the sun sets, to have no screens and no artificial lighting. And so if you turn off all your screens and you turn off any
What
sort
about
of
TV?
downlights. TV? Did you say TV?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all that. So anything that's
What
a
about
screen.
TV? What, don't watch TV?
Yeah. So if you did it for one night, so no TV, no screens, no smartphone, no laptop, no iPad, no whatever's tablet, no screens, period, and no like downlights either. So if you had just a dark room with, say, candlelight, and try to sit there and stay awake, and to stay awake, you won't be able to stay awake. It's simple as that. So that's like a good experiment for people to do.
It sounds horrible.
I know, for this day and
It
age.
sounds like it's sort of horrible. Like, yeah, it's like you're really down in your luck and you're saving money and you've turned off all the electronics, put the candle on. Isn't this perfect? This is living, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to go back to something you said.
Yeah.
You said spiritual and cosmic elements to your sleep?
Yeah.
What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm still learning in that space because it's very difficult to understand as well. But a good example, like cosmological speaking, like the moon, it has an impact on the tides, but also has an impact on sort of a good example. I guess if a full moon comes out as well, if people are, say, rampant with, say, parasites or worms in their bodies, they become more active in full moon cycles. So essentially, and different planetary systems pull and shift the way sort of our body is. So we can have less sleep. You might be woken up. If around a full moon, you might be very, very difficult to have a good solid sleep. That's an example of, say, the impact it has on your body. But there's other factors as well. There's other, like in terms of people, some people believe, depends on what you look into, astro traveling as well. So when you sleep at night, your body essentially detaches from your body, sleeping body there, your physical body, and you can astro travel around the world. And some people in that space, I haven't looked further enough into it. I believe it to an extent. I know we have, we don't simply just fall asleep at night and then we just dream and wake up in the morning. There's a lot more going on in the subconscious and the unconscious that we're not aware of. But when we wake up, we get to life and we're just consciously aware of our physical environment. When we go to sleep at night, there's more going on than just the body and the brain sort of rejuvenating and sort of resetting. And so that's another complete different rabbit hole to go down. And I'm still sort of figuring out and learning from different people what makes sense, to me at least.
What do you mean when we go to sleep? We don't just go to sleep and we wake up. Something else is going on unconsciously and subconsciously. Is this what you mean by the brain processing information that it's received coming out as dreaming? What do you mean?
Bit of both, yeah. So that's why I like sort of broken down the physiological, your body's essentially repairing, and then the psychological, so you need to sort of process the emotions and events that happen during the day. And that's like what the mind and the brain does when you're sleeping. And then you go into REM, which is where you dream, your dream state. That's dreaming, and so that's essentially a way of just processing the day that's been, or processing past emotions. But then there's other beliefs as well that I've heard recently too about when you're sort of sleeping at night, there's the other unseen realm, and essentially your body comes up. And so if you keep getting awoken throughout the night, there are multiple reasons. There could be something physiological going on, something psychological, but it can also be something from, say, in a spiritual sense. Your spiritual body comes back into your body, wakes you up, and then your brain starts to ruminate around thoughts, around emotions, around events. And so that's, I don't know, if you go through, people going through difficult seasons or periods in their life will find themselves waking up and probably thinking things over and then getting stuck in their head and not being able to go back to sleep. That's a good example of it's all intertwined. It's not one or the other. So you can't say take a pill and you're done, because we live in our physical bodies, but we also have our brains to sort of comprehend the physical world. But then there's a world outside that as well, which is that's a whole world. It really is. So
it definitely sounds like a rabbit hole, and I never thought there'd be so much information to sleep. Like, what a boring topic. Like, the art of sleep. Mate, you just go to sleep. But it does sound like there's a lot involved. Well, this is why you've brought out your own glassware, your own fashion label, but it's actually blue light blockers. Or tell us about your glasses.
Yeah. So I've designed them to be like a 3-in-1 pair of glasses. And so the base lens is what most people are familiar with blue light blocking glasses. It's just a clear lens frame, sort of lens in there with a just normal looking frame. And they block out just a very small spectrum of the sort of violet wavelength. And so they will do very little to nothing for quality of sleep. They're made for, and most people unfortunately think when they go on Amazon or if they go to an optometrist, they will get the blue light lens into their glasses and then they wear them and they think it's helping. It's helping to a very, very small degree and only during the daytime. And so if you're on a screen at a computer under lighting, then you get some benefit, but it's very little. I use it as a base lens because the other two clip-on lenses is where the real impact happens in. So you only get it really comes down to you having tinted frames. And so most people aren't comfortable wearing that. But that's where you get the biggest bang for your buck. And so that's where the yellow lens comes in. It's quite a yellow tinge to it. And that blocks out all the blue light. And that's great for daytime use. And so if you're on your screens at a computer, which most people are during the day, that will help with digital eye strain, fatigue, headaches, migraines, anything that's associated with just constant exposure to blue light during the day. So that's useful for that. So you can clip them on, clip them off, and then the dusk lens, or we call it the night lens, that comes on. That's like an orangey sort of red. it's getting quite popular now on Instagram, on social media, which is great because a lot of either celebrities or famous people are wearing like tinted lenses or they're wearing blue blockers, different brands. And so the orangey ready lens is what blocks out all the blue light and green light. And so that's where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck for your sleep, so for sleep quality. And so that's why every single night, probably the last, I don't want to say every single night, but say majority of nights, if I'm at home here, then I'd be wearing my blue blockers. I have no, it's just habit now. It's just there, put them on, I then feel tired, I go to sleep, have a good quality sleep, wake up. It's just that habit and routine now is what it is. But if I go out somewhere, I may forget them. It's not going to kill me. It's not a big deal. But I do wear them as much as I can. And yeah, that's where the real action happens in terms of sleep. And it's where if you're wearing those blue blockers before you go to bed, it's you will feel it immediately the first time you wear them. So most people are like, oh, will I feel them? Like, yeah, the very first night you will feel a difference. And then the idea then is kind of like trying to find a base, creative routine or habit in a way to wear them every night for at least a period of time. So it could be 14 days, it could be whatever it is. Because once that sets in, then when you stop wearing them, it'll feel extremely harsh and extremely like foreign. And we won't put them back on then. And so then your body then goes, I want more of this, and you just keep doing it. And so it just takes a bit to break through that habit.
And now let's talk diet. I've known you for quite a while now, over, I would say, a decade that I've known you. And your diet is incredible. Like you don't, I used to give you so much shit that we would go to Grilled and you would swallow some charcoal pills and then you would have the salad version or whatever. But you were so extreme and I was so carb hungry, comfort food, like give me the pizza, give me the McDonald's, give me everything. I want a dopamine hit. And you were the complete opposite. The older I've gotten, the more I realize how important diet is, the more I've been working out, the more I've been doing jiu-jitsu. I'm like, dude, food is fuel and you need to fuel your body with the right stuff. You have experimented with so many different foods. If you could pick one food item that you would say is the most beneficial, like the one most beneficial food, what do you think it would be? Like, is it broccoli? Is it anchovies? Is it steak? Is it potato? Like, what is the one food item?
Good question. I'd say, what comes to mind immediately when you say that is probably eggs. I think it's pretty hard to beat
What?
that. Eggs.
Really?
Yeah, I'd say in terms of, yeah. And in terms of nutrients and big bang for your buck, essentially, it's pretty hard to go past eggs, and it's been part of my sort of diet for majority of it's the last 10 years at least. Nothing, other things have ebbed and flowed in terms of things that come in. Like I've started consuming more, say, quality dairy. I didn't do that back in the day, and that's really beneficial as well. But again, it takes a while for people to adjust to dairy, having small amounts and increase and to have the right enzymes to digest it. But in terms of eggs, I'd say as a general rule, in terms of, I'd say I'm pretty hard to go past eggs, really. Eggs and maybe, say, raw honey. Not together, maybe together, maybe. But in terms of, and hence why I have bees and I have chickens. I guess bees and chickens, anything from bees, so honey products, so that's like bee propolis, that's raw honey, that's there's so many, bee pollen, there's bee, what's it, royal jelly, what they feed, so like anything from bee products and quality beef source, and then chickens give you eggs. I say I'm pretty set with with eggs and honey or bee products. I'd say they're pretty much.
What's so good about an egg? Like, what's in the nutrients other than protein? What's so good about eggs?
It's probably one of the most, I'd say would be one of the most close to say beef organs or animal organs as well. They're very high in almost everything, like iron and the vitamin Bs and the zincs And so therefore, it's the same as the eggs as well. They're quite a whole food in terms of like what's out in nature. Yeah, I mean, vegetables, yeah, hit or miss in terms of like, yeah, the quality, but also season. Certain seasons, like, they don't grow. So therefore, in like autumn, for instance, root vegetables may be more of the shining, so sweet potatoes or potatoes. But in terms of just in terms of nutrients and having everything in one sort of package, an egg you can't really go past. Quality of eggs varies. If you're getting a caged chicken egg or you're getting my girl's eggs, that's a very different sort of kettle of fish in the sense of that what I feed my girls as well. So they have rainwater and then I have organic feed and then I give them other scraps as well. So that I know that what they give me back then is really good quality and really high quality. And so, yeah, I'd say in terms of, yeah, it's a very good protein source. And it's also a very good source of, yeah, everything else as well. A lot of vitamin Bs and zincs as well. Yeah, I can't really get past eggs, to be honest.
Now, where do you stand on what are your thoughts on veganism and the carnivore diet? So I've heard so many benefits to both. You can't argue that veganism, I mean, if you're eating raw vegetables, how can you go wrong? It's good for you. Raw veggies and fruit, you will have a very high mineral, high vitamin diet. Fantastic. But then you've got the carnivore diet, which there are a lot of studies and data that indicate that the carnivore diet, after like 2 or 3 weeks of struggling, is actually really beneficial. So where do you stand with those two? Is one better than the other, or does it fall on the individual's DNA and their blood type?
Yeah, there's, again, many factors, but I see both of those diets as temporary diets that could be helpful for cleansing, essentially. And so they're not meant for longevity, neither of those two. If you stick on the vegan diet for too long, you will then start to deteriorate and your health will show. If you stick on the carnivore diet for too long, your health will start to sort of have impact as well. They're kind of like two extremes on one end. And if they're done well, they're done right with the quality foods. They're junk food vegans that eat fried potatoes, chips, and say, "Hey, I'm vegan." I'm like, that's fine, but your health will suffer quicker. But if you're someone that's very disciplined and eat like the best quality vegan food as possibly you can, then you can probably go by and you can probably cleanse your body quite well, which is fine. But you find most of the people in the vegan space are not very grounded as well. Not very grounded. It's very difficult to add muscle or to be like, they tend to be a bit more airy. And maybe the opposite for the carnivore. The carnivore people might be a bit too grounded and too much in the masculine. But again, it works for a lot of people. The vegan diet works for a lot of people, and so does the carnivore diet. But it hasn't been enough years to show what happens if they're on it for long enough. But from what my understanding and what I know about both of those two, and I've tried the in-between version, which is like the bulletproof diet, which is kind of like eating more fat focused. Therefore, you either go vegan, you go the bulletproof area where it's such a big focus on fat, and you got the carnivore, which is like high protein. And they all are essentially just like a bit too they're a bit too extreme in the sense that they're not sustainable for long-term diet. And it's not. I got to sort of somewhat experiment in all those spaces, and then kind of bring it down to one of the most important and the closest diet that I sort of follow, essentially, which I will probably continue to follow for the majority of my life, which is it's called the Western A Price diet, or there's different names for it, but essentially like ancestral diet, or it's essentially eating like the sourdough breads, the eggs, the butter, the raw milk, the beef organs, lean meats, wild caught fish, like that kind of very simple, somewhat diet. It's like probably what our great grandparents would have eaten, or great grandparents. So that essentially, it's very simplified, but it's like just quality. And so therefore you get
Food. Like food from before mass production and food before all of the preservatives.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Farm food.
yeah, that pretty much farm to table. Yeah, and most people can try to either grow their own food, or like me, I've got chickens. I can have access to the eggs and the bee product, but I can't. I don't have a cow to then get access to raw milk, but I try to seek local raw milk.
What do you mean? What do you mean raw milk? As in, what it comes from the teat, and then what do you
Yeah,
mean raw?
so it's
Before
not
the teat?
no, straight from that. So what
Doesn't get
happens is that
cooked.
most of the milk you find in the stores has either been it's been either heat pressurized for because legally has to because of I think there might be one case miles back is that they said someone died from drinking raw dairy, but it wasn't what it was. Like it was the study was actually is incorrect. Essentially, they're trying to suppress it. But raw dairy means as it is. So yeah, if you were to milk it and then have it and there are a lot more popping up around in the US. It's getting very big. Now they're legalizing in a lot of states raw dairy because it is so beneficial for human health. But essentially, yeah, it's raw. It's not what you find in stores in the supermarket. They've been pasteurized and homogenized. So therefore, what you're getting is just expensive water. Essentially, you're not really you're not really getting much nutrients, if any, from those what you get in supermarkets. And there are some of them in supermarkets maybe that are not pasteurized or not homogenized. Sorry, and therefore they have like the cream on top, and that's like one step better. But if you get in, again, it's just like it's the little to no intervention of what you get. It so straight from the cow, great. Straight from the chicken butt, great. Like whatever it is, you're not adding more into it or taking stuff away from it. And so having it, and again, it's what our great grandparents or great great grandparents would have done. They wouldn't have gone through and put all these machines and just taken out all the. They would have just had just the straight from the cows. They would have had the eggs. They would have just got the honey from the bees. They would very simple access to these things, these foods, and they had other health challenges that weren't to do with what they ate. It's probably more being like shelter or some other versions of survival. But in terms of the, you look back in photos, they're all very lean. That's the obesity. They're very lean back then too, because they're either out in the land, they're not eating artificial foods, and so they're probably eating very simple foods. And that's what I guess that movement is getting bigger and bigger every year, and social media is showing that people keep sharing what they're eating.
You know that guy, I'm trying to search it now. You know the guy who is trying to live to 100? Do you know who I'm talking about?
Brian Johnson.
What's his name?
Brian Johnson.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
he's a vampire.
He has like 50 pills a day. He also spends $1 million a year on all of these things. But what I'm hearing from you is it's simplifying your approach. The right temperature, the right lighting, and eating well. Obviously, eat well, sleep well, exercise. Yes, okay. But it seems like what you're saying, the key to health is simplifying and reducing what we're doing. Because I guess we're in a society now where everything is sold. Everything is shoved down our throats. You walk up and down one aisle at the shopping center. There's a million different types of cereals. There's sugar. There's you name it. You're saying pull back. Reduce the things that you're eating. Simplify everything, turn the lights off, and go buy candlelight. You're like, if I gave you that hypothetical question of if you had a time machine, when you'd go only back 100 years, you'd be like, oh, this is the perfect time. This is we've got penicillin, so we're fine. Plus, there's no bloody horrible preservatives in the food, and I live on the land.
Yeah. It's a dream. That's what I live in an off-grid tiny house right now. It's like I'm designed my life except I have access to the internet, which is great. Like I can talk to you, but apart from that, 100% on the land, just grounding barefoot, just drinking my filtered rainwater. It's just like eating my eggs and I get my sourdough from the local bakery. And like it's pretty much the simplicity, but that is what allows me to be consistently say optimal in every facet. So I just don't get sick. It's like I just don't like I get run down or sick, and because of the things I do.
You don't get sick?
I don't. The worst I get sick would probably be like a little bit of fatigue, and maybe a little bit, and I might have like a random nap throughout the day. That's probably more around emotional stress, which is sometimes difficult. But in terms of physical, especially not lately, I've been even more and more dialed in with sleep and diet, and my lifestyle. That it's not conducive to that because essentially I don't allow. I just have the right amount of rest, the quality of rest, what I eat and consume, and so therefore, like, it's not really, it's not in sort of, if I fell out, if I stayed up late and did something like that, I may be open to that more receptive to getting sick. But in terms of I try to focus on a lot of the practices that allow me to not do that, and I don't throw down a ton of pills either. I used to back in the day. I took a photo. I think when back in the day working with you, I had about like maybe 50 different supplements, to be honest. I think I had a Carnivore, took a photo back in 2016 or so, a ton of supplements, and I spent a lot of money on them. And compared to what I have now, I've got maybe three to four, and I don't feel
Really?
any different. I feel way better now. I just mainly eat beef organs. My supplements are taken beef organs, so beef testicles, beef heart, beef liver. Um,
Where do you buy beef testicles? Like,
I,
where is that on the
they're
Woolworths aisle, man?
now they're freeze dried and they're in like little capsules that you can just take in very easily. Um, the Melrose, a company that do them. There's a lot of companies in Australia now. If you look online and type in beef liver capsules or beef testicle capsules, there's a fair few Australian companies, and there's a lot in the US. But Australia and
What
US,
is the benefit to eating beef testicles?
for it is like probably that and oysters are probably the highest sources of zinc out there. So for men, is like crucial. So I also consume oyster capsules as well. The desiccated oyster in like little capsules. So oysters and beef testicles are sort of the highest concentrated source of zinc out there. So, and bioavailable zinc. So if you take zinc from another company, you probably end up pissing out most of that zinc. You won't actually absorb it. So if you go to the supermarket aisle and look for a zinc there, most of that zinc you consume, your body doesn't recognize it, and you end up just probably pissing it out. And so therefore you won't be really absorbing that zinc. But nature's whole food vitamin, or for men, is beef testicles. That's why the tribes back in the day would consume them. They didn't know that it was high in zinc. They just knew it was good for them and what it made them feel. And so, yeah, oysters and beef testicles are some of the best supplements for men.
Why is zinc so good for you?
Zinc was especially for men in our testes, and so that's why most of our zinc for immunity as well, so for the immune system. But for men specifically, because of our in our testes is very high zinc. So therefore, getting very high sort of quality bioavailable zinc into the body, um, for one, in terms of immunity. So that's why it's very difficult for me to get sick, because of what my diet and what my supplements I take. I'm getting quite a decent amount, or quite a high amount of, say, zinc and other vitamins that are very conducive for me being well and not getting sick. But also just for, yeah, so the immunity is really key for zinc, but for men as well, the testes. So for optimal testy health, optimal prostate health, it's pretty important. It's very important, actually. So, yeah.
Beef testicles? Why beef? What about another animal like goat or whale or I
I
don't
think
know? Why beef?
I think it's it's what they only manufacture. To be honest, I think there are probably are some, but it's what they have. Well, bull's testicles are technically what it is, but it's what they have. I guess it's what the companies provide, and but there would be other animals. It's not. I don't think they're going around chasing around kangaroos trying to get the testes, or other animals. That is, I don't think they haven't thought about that. But yeah, I think beef is the main source of organs, of quality organ meat. So yeah, there you go. I got great grandparents. Bring it back to that. They didn't have artificial lighting. They ate simple foods. That's the simplest way to get our heads around. What do they do? And then try to mimic that in our new, sort of current society.
Now, gonna talk anatomy because you keep carrying on about bull testicles. Is it the semen that has the zinc, or is it the actual organ of the testicle? Like, are you eating dried semen in a capsule?
No. Well, I mean, I don't know exactly the manufacturing process. I don't know. I mean, I should probably look into it, but I'd say it'd be the whole. From my understanding, it'd be everything then. So, yeah, I mean, it's just well, essentially as you see it as, because as they slaughter an animal, it's eating the whole animal then. So most people they will slaughter like a cow and just have just a small part of what they use for beef and whatever it is, but therefore using the whole animal. So that includes the testes as well. But yeah, from my understanding, it's like the whole testes then. And I don't know how they go about it, but they essentially it's freeze dried. And so I don't know that whole process, what it looks like. That'd be very interesting. But yeah.
Do you have any information on the health benefits of eating a cow's vagina? I mean, if you're eating bull testicles, a cow's vagina's got to help. What about the zinc from that?
I'm pretty sure they have just the. I'm pretty sure I have just an anus. I don't think they have the. I might be.
Dane, don't tell me you're eating cow's anus.
No.
This is too far, bro. Like, what's wrong with the rump? What's wrong with the rib? Like, what's wrong with the T-bone, man? I can't imagine you going to a steakhouse going, do you have any testicles or anus available? I like it medium rare.
Yeah. Some butchers might be open for that. Who knows?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, great grandparents. Just bring it back to that.
Well, I love that. There's just so many jokes and images swirling around in my mind. Now, Dane, I want to find out, where can people go to buy your glasses if they want really nice, good sleep, to get rid of all the blue light, to stop all the screens, etc., etc. They don't want to give up the television. They don't want to give up the phone, but they want to wear the glasses at night. Where can they go to buy a pair of your beautiful spectacles?
Yep, that's Barkley, BARKLEYS.AU.com. I think so.
Barclays.au. Excellent.
No, just barclaysau.com. There's no
barclaysau.com.
Yeah.
I love it. I will put a link in the description.
But yeah, I'll give you a link anyway.
Of this video.
Yeah.
I love it. Hey, Dane, mate, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. It's always a blast talking to you, and you never know what you're going to get. And I've always walked away with so much more information. So it's always a pleasure, mate. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Aaron.